Alrighty, good morning everyone. Today I have my favorite dad, Daddy Ted, with us. So yes, Dad Ted, would you like to tell them like how we became family in the first place?
Well, some time ago when my daughter went to sixth form college, she
Yeah,
met this beautiful young lady
yeah,
and brought her over to our house at weekends and any time she could, really, because they became very good friends.
yeah.
And then she became friends with the whole family, and who wouldn't like her?
Oh, thank you.
But
Yeah,
um, she was very interested in a lot of things, which a lot of the friends that Emma used to bring over were interested in their own things, but not in things that we did in the garden and things that we did. And so I decided to take them on a trip to London, and I think it was Trude's first time in London.
yes, 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 yes.
And we went round all the museums and places of interest and that sort of thing. And
You're not missing out the boulder,
we
right?
had a lovely day. Yeah, we had a bit of a slight hiccup on the way down
Yeah,
because a
scary
bird
one.
went straight through the window screen, which frightened everybody.
I don't think that was the bird. I think that was like what do you call it?
It was a pheasant.
No.
Don't argue with me.
Okay, right. Okay, your memories are intact, I'm aware. So
It was a bird.
it was a
Yeah, it's
bird.
called a pheasant.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I thought it was a boulder.
No, it was about the size of a chicken.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It was
Okay.
alive when
Oh,
when it
okay.
hit the
It
window.
was.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
flying across the road.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're in the front, so yeah, you probably
Yeah.
saw better. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, we carried on to London and put some tape over the window to stop the draft.
Yes. Yeah,
And
you were so calm. You were like, "Oh yeah, I'm just going to make a couple of calls, and it'll be all right."
so we had a really wonderful day, and on several occasions, Truda came over and just joined in with the family and became one of the family.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I had
um,
my personal peanut butter jam here.
yeah,
Yeah, it's good
and we
old
learned
times.
a lot about each other's culture and that sort of thing, which was lovely.
Yeah,
Then sadly she went back to Hong Kong to finalise her training and
yeah,
get her qualifications, and we still kept in touch, and
yeah.
very much so. And then when I had a bit of a mishap and was diagnosed with polymyalgia, and it was coming to the stage before they got the right medication that I was quite poorly, and Truda was helping me with what medication I was on, which I got the advice for free.
Yeah, I don't think I helped much,
Yeah.
but yeah.
And it was getting to a stage where I was struggling to get out of bed and that,
Yeah.
and I got this call from Truda, and she said, "By the way, Dad, I'm getting married." And I said, "Oh, lovely, when, congratulations." And she said, "Would you and Mum come to the wedding?" So I said, "Yes." I said, "That would be lovely," thinking that it would be about 2-3 years before she got married.
Yeah.
And then she said, "That's great, it's in March." And this was in November, so I only had about 4 months to get ready and book all
Yeah.
the flights. We always wanted to go to the Far East because my father was a prisoner in Singapore when the Japanese invaded, and I wanted to go back to see where he was in Singapore.
Yeah.
And so we made a good trip of it, and I think it was about 8 flights, and I don't know how many hotels. But we came over to the wedding, and I was honoured for Truda to ask me to walk her down the aisle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. How did you feel?
it brought tears to my eyes. It was lovely.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
It
Yes.
was beautiful.
Yeah, it's not just that moment from what I heard. It's the moment when I sent in the message and then you were
Yeah,
already like
yeah, I
crying
did.
all day. Because normally Dad would like respond to my message pretty quickly. But on that day when I told him about that big news, he was gone, like disappeared, like for one whole day. And I got a message from Mom, and then she was saying, "Oh, you got Dad, tears and tears and tears." Oh, okay, that was fun.
Luckily enough, I got the right medication. I was fit enough to come over,
Yeah.
and we had a super time. Went to a massive great aquarium, which I've never seen the likes of in the world.
Yeah.
And, with
Yeah.
whale sharks swimming over our head, and
That's a good one.
yeah, first time I've sat cross-legged and eaten. I think it was raw goat in the
I don't remember the details really. Yeah, but it was a blur.
in the sushi.
A sushi, of
Yeah,
course.
we had
Yes.
sushi with, and there was raw goat in the sushi, but the food was delicious, and the
Yeah.
people were lovely. In
I think
Japan.
raw cows.
No,
I don't
it was
remember.
goat.
Goat. Wow, you
Yeah.
remember it better than I do. Okay. Yeah.
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 And
they have intact memories. Yeah.
it was just a wonderful experience. It really was.
Yeah.
then-
And a lion dance.
Yeah,
a dragon- dragon dance,
In the
yeah.
evening, we went to this show, which was spectacular, with
Yeah.
national costumes, and they had a dragon there.
We're still on
huge
about
dragon,
Japan. Yeah. The
which
Okinawa.
came over, and it saw another dragon. My wife.
Yes. Yes.
It put its head right out, its mouth right over her head.
Yeah. Yeah. That.
Right in there.
Yeah. Totally. Because my mom is Welsh, and Welsh. Do you want to talk about that
Yeah,
history part?
Yeah, they come from Wales. They're part of the British Isles, and they have their own language, but not many people speak it. But they are teaching it in schools now.
Oh, they are.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So,
It's good that they're passing this on.
Yeah, so they're keeping the cultures alive. They've got a very similar culture, but in many ways very, very different.
Yeah.
Even different food, and so
Yes, different food. Yeah. Yeah.
I met my wife in London, and she was giving a big speech at the I've forgotten the name of the hotel now. Can you pause that bit?
Is it Park Lane?
Park Lane Hotel. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from then we got together, and we bought this house, and as an investment, because at the time we were both in quite high profile jobs, so we were traveling about all over the place, and
Yeah.
we didn't think we would settle here because neither of us were from this part of England.
Yeah.
And then we finally settled here, and we've been here for 40 years. So.
Yeah. Here, as in Doncaster, which
Yes,
is like
yeah.
in the middle of somewhere or nowhere.
The middle of nowhere.
Yeah, middle of nowhere. So yeah, my mom is Welsh, and dragons is kind of like the symbol.
That's right.
Yeah, so when that dragon dance we just talked about in Okinawa came down and kind of like kissed my mom's head, that's probably an understatement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then my mom went, wow, she was flipped. Yeah.
She disappeared into the mouth.
Yeah, and then she was saying something about it for like 5 minutes straight. And then, yeah. So I knew, oh, okay, dragon definitely meant something to her. So that was a really good part, yeah.
And this was the first time we met Chris and his family and some of Truda's family, and everybody was so lovely. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Oh, thank you. That's because you didn't get to sleep with us, eat with us, and live with us. Yeah, now we're living here.
We lived as a family, like we always do.
Yeah, now we're living here. Yeah, we're like this close to argue, you know. Yeah, no, just joking. You guys are lovely. Yeah, fun to be around. So yeah, that's absolutely incredible. Like, given of the history we have. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm looking at your garden right now, which is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
And yes, of course, yes. I'm about to tell you about a garden, but I want you to tell them about your moth project.
Okay.
Yeah, because 10 years ago I was here, and my dad was telling me about his moth project. I was like, why? Yes, I was like, why moth? Yeah, but he was like so fascinated. I didn't want to. I just want to be polite and all that. I didn't say anything back then until I've had my bearded dragon, And then that's the point I started to appreciate the insects and everything. Yeah, so this time come back, I'm literally interested in your moths, not just, pretend to be. Yeah.
No,
so
I know you are. Yeah.
yeah, I am. Yeah, I even get to touch them, pet them, stroke them. It was really
Noel,
fun.
of
Yeah,
course.
and Noelle too.
Yeah.
Yes, my girl
Yeah.
is 100% interested into your moths and
It's
your
the first
caterpillars.
It's the first time I've met her, and she's outstanding. She's lovely.
Yeah, your granddaughter.
Yeah,
After
she's-
so many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you like to tell them about your little shed?
Yeah.
And,
Well, 10 years ago, I started a project because I'd retired from work, which was quite, as I say, quite high profile and dashing about everywhere. I wanted something fairly peaceful, and it was a project that I could do from home because moths fly about all over the place at night. But where I live is fairly unique because we have what we call nature reserves where we preserve areas for nature. And part of the involvement was getting involved with, we have a charity called
Wildlife
the
Trust.
Wildlife Trust. Yeah. And we look after these areas, and they are so natural that we get hundreds of different types of moth
Yeah.
in the area, and some of them are very rare, and some of them are nearly extinct. So I decided that I would monitor them and keep a log of how many moths appear in the garden. Now, the way we do this is we have a light that is actinic, and a moth will fly to a light.
Yeah.
Nobody knows why, but they fly to a light. If you've got a light outside, you will always see a moth flying around it. And so we took on some what we call traps. They're not really traps because we let the moths go as soon as we've counted them and identified them.
Yeah.
And when I first started, I found it very, very difficult to identify them because so many moths look the same. Then
Exactly.
I started to get into the patterns, and some of these moths emerge on the same day every year.
Oh.
And we have a moth for every month. There are moths about for every month of the year, even when it's -5 degrees. You'll get moths flying, and they're a certain type. They're called winter moths. I don't know why.
Yeah, but to be very honest, the moths we get in Hong Kong, they look very different. They look very summery.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
summery. Like that's the time. That's the only time we usually get moths anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So the ones I'm seeing here, I think I've shown you guys before. They're pretty hairy.
Yes.
Yes, they know how to put their clothes on. Yeah.
There are different types though, and every moth has a family and it has a Latin name. So when I correspond with people all over the world that do the same thing, they monitor moths. And for instance, I've got a friend in Israel who monitors moths all the time, and we correspond on Facebook. And
Oh, okay.
she she doesn't know the English names, the same as if Truda was looking at moths in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
She wouldn't know the English names, so we always call them by the Latin name because that's universal all over the world.
Yeah.
And so I was learning a bit of Latin as well, and I suddenly thought I was learning so much from moths, and it was so interesting.
Yeah. The more you know, the more interested you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
For instance, there's a moth, and moths, by the way, are the main prey to night-flying birds like nightjars and bats.
Yes, bats.
So bats are the main predator. But they noticed that because a bat locates its prey by sending radar out, and the radar bounces back.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how they tell how close they are to the moth.
Yeah.
So that when they home in, they send out more radar and it comes back faster. So you can monitor this on a meter. But what I'm trying to get at is the Americans, when they designed their stealth bomber for going underneath radar, they designed it on a certain moth because they found that this moth, when the bat sent the radar out, nothing came back.
Okay.
So they studied the shape of the wings and they designed this aircraft on. And these are the sort of things that fascinated me.
Yeah.
And then I started doing slideshows and talks at the local schools and the local.
He does, yeah.
The local couch.
Do you still do them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the summer we go to summer camp and take the moth trap, and we have little kids with children with large moths on the finger.
Oh yes.
And they get used to them, and then the next time I go, their parents are all saying, as soon as we got home, they all wanted us to make a moth trap.
Oh, that's cute. It's just like people to keep getting the buck hotel in your own garden.
And they're fascinated by them. And so I did this project. I've now completed 12 years of monitoring, and I'm mainly photographing them now rather than ticking off everyone that I see. But I've got all that data on a spreadsheet, so I send that off to the government, and they can monitor different patterns of how many moths are declining and how many are expanding.
So,
which is good. And for farmers, because there's also a problem with moths. They have caterpillars, and caterpillars eat leaves and vegetables. So we can tell them when there is a big excess or a plague coming in of a certain type of caterpillar, and they can treat them. They can treat the vegetables to eliminate these. So
so that's good for
everyone. It is quite useful.
Yeah, useful. So was it like a paid job or a volunteer job?
No, this is a volunteer job. All volunteer.
This is really awesome. So I know you're also volunteering yourself to do the reserve work.
Yes,
in the woods,
that's right. I'm doing a project with Lincoln University, which is we have a large area, about 50 square miles. I don't know in kilometers.
It's okay. We'll figure it out.
About 50 square miles of land that is what we call peat, which is moss that has decayed over the years, and it sinks to the bottom of the water, and then this builds up and builds up until you have layers of what we call peat, which is really decayed and almost fossilized.
Oh, wow.
Vegetable material.
Okay,
vegetation. Very important in today's climates because peat is one of the best harbourers of carbon. So it sucks the carbon out of the air and it stores the carbon in the peat.
Oh, okay.
But we had a problem here because peat is also very good for growing plants.
Yeah.
So it was harvested for agriculture.
Wow.
And so the peat was declining. So I'm doing a project with Lincoln University where we're taking core samples down to 3 meters of this peat, and they take it back to their laboratories in Lincoln, and they do carbon dating on it, so they can tell how many years of growth there is to get that amount of peat, and they can tell you what pollens are in there, so they know what plants were growing. And they can also tell you things like when there was a fire, like a forest fire, and all that sort of thing. It's all there in that carbon data. And so I really enjoy that. We get out on the moors in the winter with a load of students, and
in the winter,
they love it.
Wow. Okay.
We go up there in the winter. Because there's not
It's
so much
pretty cold
vegetation to crawl through, and not so many insects as well. Because because it's a wet area. In the summer, you get lots of mosquitoes.
That's fine. I mean, if you're talking about the mosquitoes, I'm from Hong Kong. I know what mosquitoes are. The ones here, they're super friendly. They don't usually. I don't know. I don't get a lot of bites here, so. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay for me.
Uh,
I know you are growing some really endangered species in your own garden,
That's right. Yeah.
and you secretly spread this
Yeah.
pollens and yeah, everywhere. Yeah,
I look after, as a volunteer for, I look after a small woodland that we went for a walk through the other day.
yeah,
And in that wood, there was a plant growing there called a royal fern,
yeah.
which is Osmunda regalia. And that is that is a fern that dates back 200 years, but there are only 6 plants from this original gene
Okay.
that grew on the peat bogs in this small area.
Yeah.
But because the land was drained for agriculture, the peat is too dry to reproduce
Right. Right.
the ferns.
Yeah.
So these 6 were pretty endangered, and they were getting like quad bikes riding over them, and one of them got nearly killed by a tree that uprooted. And so we decided we'd get a scientist in to try and reproduce them from the spores.
Yeah.
And he did a very good job, and he managed to get about 30 or 40 of these ferns growing. But unfortunately, when we were just after we planted them out, what we've done is planted 6 round each original plant, so they're in exactly the same place. Now these plants are identical; they've got the same gene pool,
Yeah.
because they're grown in sterile conditions. And unfortunately, he had a heart attack. The gentleman who started it, so he asked me if I would take it over. So he showed me how to do it and what conditions to grow them in, and I was quite successful on the first one. I managed to get about 30 some odd plants growing, and they're now 5 years old, and so they're ready now to go into the
Wild.
reserves, into the wild.
Yeah.
So
So they're practically your babies.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you name them?
No.
Yeah.
Only
yeah.
mother plant.
Yeah, the mother
Yeah,
plant here.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing because
Yeah.
normally, yeah, England is quite an interesting place because what you just said is like they're too dry to thrive here. But you know, you get rain like every like 30 minutes here.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's still dry, and I literally I can feel like how dry my face is here. Yeah, it probably don't feel like because you're
This
used to it.
area
Yeah.
is one of the driest parts of Britain.
Yeah,
And
probably, yeah. It's
people
a
come
lot of
here if
sun.
they have rheumatics,
Oh, right.
because that's affected by damp weather.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
they come
It's a
here
bit
because it's so dry,
area.
and they feel a lot better because of
Yeah,
the dryness of the air. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I have got a plant named Truda around the corner.
Dankeschön.
I'll show you later.
Yes, please. I didn't even know. Yeah, thank you. I didn't even know. So, your garden, you know, I would love to show you guys the lovely garden. The garden is very interesting because it's not the what you call it the artificially well, what they call it, artificial garden. Yes, it's not designed in that way. It's more like a natural forest looking, that kind of garden. You know, I usually I've seen how people grow it scientifically, like grow your own forest in your garden scientifically in a textbook. But I never knew, because normally what I know is that the schools in Hong Kong would probably do it as a school project, and it's not something that they would encourage the student. Okay, now you can go home and grow your own. But now I'm seeing it like in real life. I mean, this is amazing. This is absolutely amazing. Have you counted like how many species you've got here? Or you just let them thrive naturally? And
Of plants,
Yeah.
I've never counted them. No. Nearly all the plants in the garden. It's like I would call it a mini forest.
yes, it is, because it really is.
Because there is a miniature world out there of small insects, and
Yeah.
so it's designed really on local plants and indigenous plants that will attract wildlife.
Yeah.
Like,
They've got literally, oh my God, they have birds every single hour, different birds coming in every single hour. Yes.
butterflies,
Yeah.
bees, beetles,
Yeah.
ants,
And now
anything.
hedgehogs.
Yeah.
We're noticing
And
that. Yeah.
the amazing hedgehogs.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It started out just one, and now it's bringing the whole
Yeah,
family
the
down.
most we've had is 5 in the garden at one time, all fighting over a bit of food.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you feed them mealworms.
Yeah, we don't give them a lot of food, but we give them some mealworms, really, to keep them in this area because
Yeah.
they're safe here.
Yeah.
If they go
Dried
outside,
mealworms, in case what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's also a water area, which is quite natural. I never clean it out or anything like that. And there's a few fish in it, but we get frogs, we get grass snakes
Yeah.
in there, and
Grass snakes.
yeah,
Okay.
lots of different insects, dragonflies, and even wasps and that go and drink out of the pond. The
Yeah.
hedgehog drinks out of the pond.
Yeah.
So
Everyone does.
that's in such a dry area that is vital.
Yeah,
Because
very.
the birds come in at night, and even birds that don't feed on the bird table come in and they drink from the water.
Yeah.
It's shallow so that they can get in and have a good
Oh,
splash
yes.
around.
Yeah, I've
Which
seen the
is-
birds. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
enjoying the time there.
But that's
Yeah, taking a
important
shower,
to keep
taking a
the
bath.
water shallow enough so that they can get in and have a good old splash.
Yeah, yeah. So it's designed in such a way that mimic the natural environment and
In
yeah.
miniature.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
keep it under control. Because some people, they just let their garden grow naturally wild, but
Oh,
I keep it under control.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
well designed. Yeah, very, very well designed. So, before we dash off today, yeah, you've been rambling a lot. Just kidding. Yeah, we love that.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, is there anything you want to say to parents with young children?
Yeah, the best thing to do is get them out in the open, in the open spaces, in the wild,
Yeah.
and just let them find their own nature, because they will do.
Yeah, yeah.
While I'm talking now, there's a robin just coming to the...
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Just
that
kidding.
makes perfect sense. Yes. Yeah, I agree with you because, in Hong Kong, we do a lot of things artificially. We
Yes.
might have different
Yeah.
classes
Yes.
with different fancy names
Yeah.
and then try to, teach the children this skill and that skill. And it's not natural because the kids are not taking it in like, oh, this is what I'm born into. And so they have difficult times to connect the knowledge with what they are in nature. So yeah, I appreciate your little piece of advice. Yes.
I think it comes from when I was a child. We had a lot of freedom. We could go virtually anywhere. The farmer wouldn't say anything if we walked across his fields,
Yeah.
and in amongst the cows and everything. And
That's the beauty.
nowadays they think you're going to let a dog go or something like that.
Yeah.
So
They probably
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
getting a little
yeah.
bit more defensive. Yeah.
yeah. One other little thing, when I got involved with the trust, we've got a place near here where we have over 2,000 seals coming from the sea.
Oh yeah.
And they come up onto the beach and they have their pups, and you can stand within 2 foot of them. In November, they all come in, and they're there having their pups. The bulls are fighting each other
Oh
to
wow.
get
Okay.
to the females. And it's a spectacular sight, and I was privileged to warden that for about 4 or 5 years, and I learnt so much about seals and
Yeah.
things from that. So
Yeah.
the Wildlife Trust, although I volunteer, I've got a wealth of knowledge from it for free, which if you go to university, you have to pay for all that knowledge.
Exactly. Yes. But you must be like very interested in this in the first place before seeing the value in it.
Yeah, I was brought up in the country, so
Yeah.
I was used to having goats and animals and horses and that sort of thing.
They're
So,
fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they
Once
are.
you get to see them, the beautiful moments, you're fascinated by it.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you very
Okay.
much, Dad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye.
bye.